So this is a very interesting concept for a video that I'm doing here. Why I think you should watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. Well, I'll say it right off the bat. If you get something recommended to you and you're not interested and you don't want to watch it, I think you shouldn't watch it if you really don't want to. I'm not here to tell anyone you definitely need to do this. It's not a value judgment or anything like that. But if you're looking for something to watch and you like recommendations, I'm gonna talk about the why when it comes to my praise of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Because if you've seen this channel, you know that I love this show. I talk about it in very glowing terms whenever I mention it in a video. I'm not alone in that respect, because online as well, in forums and on YouTube videos, people frequently talk about, oh my gosh, Avatar, it's so good, I love Avatar. It's very tempting when you're recommending something like that to go over the lore of the show and what the show's about when you're recommending it. But I'm gonna do something different here. I'm gonna give one metric for my recommendation here and talk about why it excels at this one thing and not necessarily the things that people usually talk about when they're recommending something. Because yes, I could talk about how this show utilizes mythology extremely well, and friendship and good versus evil and making the right choice. All those things are true. That's definitely the case. But there are lots of shows that explore things like that, even with using the 4 elements in mythology and stuff like that. What makes Avatar so great? If you're anything like me, and I know I am, when I'm looking for a recommendation for a show, what I usually want is something that I know is going to keep me engaged and interested and is going to be satisfying at the end when I actually get to the conclusion of the show. Because there's nothing that I dislike more when I'm actually trying to find something to get into than me starting the show and saying, it's not for me after a few episodes. Or maybe I finished the first season and I realize it's not going anywhere. Or maybe there's just a lot of episodes that feel like I'm just being sort of dragged along the plot and like nothing is actually happening. I know that that's something I really don't like when I'm watching something to try to get into it. What if I told you there is a show that has the highest rate of viewer satisfaction that I have ever seen from any show? That's a pretty big claim, I understand that, but seriously, when I talk to people who've seen Avatar, people who finish the show say, thank you so much for showing me that, to whoever showed it to them. People who've seen most of the show, I can't wait to see what happens. Anyone I've talked to about Avatar, they say, oh gosh, I love that show. If not saying something like it's in my top 5 shows, or maybe even my favorite show. There's people in their like 20s and 30s and 40s who just say Avatar is my favorite show. And they don't even talk about it like Avatar is my favorite animated show or Avatar is my favorite kids show. They just say it's my favorite show. Now I know that it's a little bit scary to give something such a high reputation, because it can make it so it can feel disappointing if it doesn't live up to that. But I'm saying this specifically because I think that's a little odd, isn't it? I mean, if you think about shows that have mass appeal, the only other show I can think of that has like that much mass appeal where people watch it and they say like, oh, I really love that show, is The Office, right? The Office, people talk about The Office. Oh, I love The Office. Lots of people from lots of different generations watch that show. But I've also heard a lot of people say stuff like, I watched a few episodes, it's not for me. I think it's dumb, the humor doesn't work for me, I can't stand the cringe. All those kinds of things people say about the show The Office. I don't really hear dissenting voices about Avatar. Not saying they're not out there, I'm sure there are some. And I'm sure there are people who haven't really watched the show all that well either, who just don't really have any interest in it. And I have no problem with that. I'm not here to convince those people that they're wrong. If you see the show a little bit here and there and it doesn't interest you, that's fine. But I'm talking like people who are like, okay, I'm gonna watch the show, I'm gonna start the first episode, then I'm gonna watch the second episode. Like, those people almost universally just love the show. It's so strange, isn't it? It's almost like universal acclaim for the show. And if I was looking for a show to watch and I was operating with a short attention span, which I am when I watch things on Netflix especially, because there's so many choices, I would want to watch something that I knew I had a very high likelihood of not only staying interested in, not only being hooked by, but something that when I finish it is going to be very satisfying. And even without knowing the details of the show, doesn't that sound like something that might be worth watching? It's just something to think about. and a point that I don't really hear people make about that show. I think Avatar has a lot of clout, and I think people should talk about it when they're recommending it. Anyway, thank you guys very much. If you like this video, give me a like, and until next time, allons-y.